Well, welcome everybody to Traction Thursday. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Engle, who hails from Sigourney, Iowa. Salute. And a colleague of his is Carol Lilly, and she also hails from Iowa. She's from Cedar Falls. She's a UNI grad, and he's a fellow.
Thank you very much. As he said, I'm Jim Engle. I'm Iowa Downtown Research Center at the Iowa Economic Development Authority. Carol and I get the pleasure to work in downtowns all over the state, sometimes even the Midwest. So we see a lot of different places. And we did what we call a downtown assessment back in November in Fairfield. We had a team of 5 people. And we come in and we do a lot of touring of the community. We talk to a ton of people when we're in town. We look at the strengths, the weaknesses of the community, then we react with recommendations. We probably do 8 or 9 of those kinds of visits in the state every year, and then we do some shorter versions of the Iowa Downtown Assessment called walkarounds, which we do in smaller communities. But it's a pretty interesting thing we do, and as he said, I grew up in Sigourney, and I've always known Fairfield was a cool place. You know, I was familiar with Fairfield. Changed dramatically, though, since I was a high school senior in Sigourney. It's an interesting town. I don't think there's another community quite like Fairfield in the state for a number of reasons. But what we want to do today is we want to just talk briefly about that downtown assessment visit. I could talk for 2 hours about that visit because we probably have 75 or so recommendations we made. And then I can't do that. I'm going to have to do this in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. So I'm going to go quickly. So I might hit on 5 or 6 things that we talked about. But then we're going to follow that up with Carol Lilly talking about Mainstreet, Iowa, because Fairfield is intent on reapplying for Mainstreet status this year. And I think that when I look at the challenges you have in the downtown area in Fairfield, I think it lines up really nicely with the organizational structure that Mainstreet provides. So I think our dual presentation works really well today. When we were in town, and we had a 5-person group in Fairfield and a beautiful week in November, we looked at the assets of the community, which I'm not going to list here in the interest of time, but also the downtown area and the things that stick out most to us. Buildings, architecture, amazing in downtown Fairfield. It was amazing way back when I was a kid in Sigourney. It may not be quite as amazing now, because those buildings need attention. And these are things we say in every community we're in. But I think when you live here, sometimes you lose sight of that. Sometimes you take that for granted. And it takes the bad guys to come in and point out that, hey, you guys need some help in some of these areas. So I'm going to be a little bit of a bad guy today, too, when I talk about some of the challenges. Other strengths, the courthouse, the variety of restaurants, they're eclectic. Sometimes you don't always know when they're open. We heard a lot, which is a problem. First Friday Art Walk, the Carnegie Museum, I didn't even know about. And when I went in there, I was blown away by that place. If you haven't been in there, go in there. Very cool place. The kiosks, Terry, the kiosks are fantastic around town. The streetscapes and plannings, very cool. Kiwanis Kids Day, the park and gazebo, the Christmas decorations. I kind of think this is a dark downtown at night, so it makes the Christmas decorations that more impactful. We happen to be here on wing night at the Elks, so we sat up there and looked at the Christmas decorations. Wonderful. Downtown employees, collab office space right here. And we met with a group of travel writers when we were in town via a virtual meeting, and they were talking about expect the unexpected is kind of their phrase they used for Fairfield. So these are all really cool things. If we came to town and just talked about the good things, we wouldn't have a job very long. So our next goal was to really dig deep and talk to a lot of people and look at the community ourselves based on our experience, and then find some challenges. And on the assessment visit, we broke this up into 7 themes. I'm not going to even address all of these themes today, but what I want you to do is call Mindy McAdams and request the report. I think it's about a 40-page report. Skim it. Take a look at it because we've got a lot of recommendations and drawings and things in that report, which I'm not going to share with you. I'm just going to hit some of the main things. Okay, this is kind of a funny one. The one-way streets. We don't work in a lot of towns with one-way streets, and when I came to town, I'm just going to say it was the most confusing downtown I've ever been in to find what I wanted to find. I had to drive 3 blocks out of the way to get to where I was. So we talked a lot about the one-way streets, and I understand it started to be a topic of conversation here too. But the thing that was surprising to us, because when I experienced this, and when we talked to the travel writers, it was the first thing they talked about too. It's confusing. It's difficult. When you live here, you don't notice that. You know exactly where to go and how to get there and how long it's going to take. But you've got a lot of businesses and features in this town that are probably driven by outside people. So we thought that the one-way streets certainly is a topic to bring up and maybe consider a change there. So that was one of the things we talked about. And then we talked about some simple things like restriping the streets, they're fading, adding stop signs, changing traffic signals in some certain areas. But we did talk a lot about the streets and the sidewalks, pedestrian crossings. There are just some, your sidewalks are rough. You've probably seen this. It's not an easy thing to deal with. It just isn't. It's just a lot of money to deal with this. But there are simple things too, faded hydrants, things like that. Just things you need to repair. I would totally, and maybe, I don't know if this group can do this or not sometime, but it might be fun just to take a walk around town. Take some pictures, come back and share what you saw as red flags. Because you don't need outside people to do that if you take a walk around town yourself and identify some of those things. The streetscape in Fairfield in places is a little stark, a little drab. We think communities pop better in their downtowns if they have color, if they have seating, if they have cool trash receptacles, if they have public art. And these are just kind of examples of shots in other communities that have managed to do this. So that was a point that we looked at a lot. The other thing I want to get on you a little bit, and I think we noticed this maybe in the first 10 minutes of our arrival, this is not a good sign town. You've got obsolete signs from businesses that closed 10 years ago. You've got bad signs. You've got signs that are good, but it doesn't tell me what's in the store. So take an audit of that. Take a look at the signs. When we were here, we talked about some other communities that actually did signage programs. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're tied to incentives to get good signage going on downtown. But the one thing that I remember when I was here is you have one of the most unbelievable art communities that I've been in. I was at a table with 20 artists. I felt lousy because I can't draw anything, I am not an artist, but you've got so much talent that I think tying that talent to programs like a grant program or something like that would really help you. So signs was something that we thought this group should work on. You've got some good examples too. I love the old signs like this one. That is so cool still. This was a drawing that one of our team members did. I don't want to pick on a particular business here. What the heck? I'm going to pick on a particular business. But this business could need help. Just improves the quality. If you go in there, you get great food. But I don't know if you go in there until they make some cool branding decision with a new sign. And I think if you have some kind of a local incentive to help you with that, and we can give you some information on that too. We talked a lot about business presence when we were here. You've got some cool businesses. You can't always tell what's inside. They don't always look as good on the outside as they do when you get in the business. Posting your business hours is very important. I mentioned everybody in town complained about not knowing when restaurants were open or even what day they were open. So just getting that out into the public, we thought was a really good idea. Street lights, it's kind of a dark downtown. We made some recommendations relating to street lights, which might be a future project. Keeping your businesses lit during the night, at least up to a certain time with timered window displays is really important. These are just some example of place making projects that other communities have done with lighting. You know where that is? Oh. I was the first Mainstreet manager in Oskaloosa in 1986. Oh, I'm so old. When I got there, they had just built the Penn Central Mall, and there was this alley that leads to the mall. And I think I'm in the right town. Yeah, it says Oskaloosa. You know what? Where this is, all you had to do is read it, you guys. But they wanted an alley that was brought to life to get from the square to the mall. And that was so difficult. I never got it done. I mean, this happened after I left, but it's a cool project they did, and they capitalized on their music history in Oskaloosa. So creating spaces like that, and you have opportunities. I think the alley that leads to the courthouse is kind of underutilized. Carol and I looked at it, and so it's the best view in town looking at the courthouse. I think you do some special things there. Buildings, we've never done a downtown assessment where one of the themes wasn't buildings. You have fantastic buildings. Some of them, they're showing their age. Some of them need maintenance. Some of them need paint. Some of them need full-blown building rehab projects. We came back and did, a few months later, did an incentives workshop to get building owners excited about state incentives. So hopefully that will help. But you do have really cool buildings, and you've got some problem ones too, and you guys all probably know which ones those are. So if you do come into the Mainstreet program, even if you don't, we're going to work with you on this, on getting some building rehabs going, and it's kind of a one-at-a-time process. But we did some drawings when we were in town too. These are all in the report, by the way, so take a look at that. One thing that we have in our office, we published a downtown design guideline. These are suggestions. Sometimes we have communities adopt these design guidelines and tie it to a local incentive. So if you have a low interest loan for building rehab projects, or you have a facade grant program, you can actually blame us. Well, our IDA's guidelines say you got to do this, but this is a way to approve good projects and disapprove bad proposals. We took a look at vacancy. This is an interesting town because when we were here, all we could hear is that we want to have a business mix like Washington or like Mount Pleasant. You were comparing yourself to other communities. You've got an interesting business mix. I wouldn't say it's super in the retail category, but you can see the influence in Maharishi, for example, on the business mix, especially in with the restaurants, I think, in the community. You can't really see it with retail. It surprises me that you don't have a better retail base. So I think it could work here. But what we dwelled on when we were here is you can't find spaces that are move-in ready. It's hard to walk around the square and say, I'd put my business here. So we talked a lot about getting some of those storefronts business ready so you can see the opportunities and improve your business mix. If you get in the Mainstreet program, we work with you closely on market analysis and understanding what kinds of businesses can work in your community. And then we talk a lot about the proper way to recruit businesses. I understand that you're already looking at this. The city has a vacant building registry, which is a big step. I'm not going to go over this today because I could talk about this forever, but it really is a useful tool to get vacant buildings back on back in business with businesses. And then there's small things you can do. You can sell these vacancies better. If they look like crap now, clean them up. And, put a sign up there, cute sign that says, I wish I was a toy store, or whatever is tops on your wish list, a bakery or whatever. I think here it was a restaurant, fine dining restaurant. There was something else that came up big and I forget what it was. It's in the report.
Probably sports bar.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
My group talked about sports bar.
Your group talked about sports bar. Okay, I think that was on my list. Yeah. I talked a little bit about market analysis and business recruitment too. So in the report, we gave some ideas and kind of short-term fixes for business recruitment, and then understanding your market and going out and recruiting what you need. So I'm going to stop there on the downtown assessment. Please take a look at that report because it's full of stuff. I just barely even hit on it today. And if you have any questions about that, my number is in the report. I'm going to turn it over to Carol Lilly, who's going to talk about Mainstreet, Iowa.
Thank you, Jim. As Jim said, I'm here to talk about Mainstreet, Iowa, and a little bit of what we have going on. But before that, just want to share a little bit with you on the history and why we are where we are in downtown economic development, and why we exist as an entity in IEDA. You might take a look at this picture. Jim talked about a lot of the positive features. These are some of our downtowns look like this. Others in Iowa look like this. So there is a need for us and the services that we provide. Fairfield is right in between. You guys have some good stuff going on, and you have some opportunities as well. So our goal is to have a lot less of this happening across the state. There's a lot of reasons on why downtown disinvestment occurred in the first place. Way back to the 1950s and 60s when urban sprawl started, the Highway Act went through, businesses started to move out towards the highway, interstate travel. The world just became a lot more car-centric than what it is today. A lot of other things happened kind of over time, and that disinvestment in the downtown occurred. And that's really too bad because downtown is where our small businesses, our independent businesses, locally owned businesses tend to thrive and cluster. And when that disinvestment occurred, there really wasn't a lot of opportunity for those businesses. So it is a missed opportunity. There's some real dollars around that. This is a typical two-story building in a downtown area. And back in 2013, so this is an old study, but it is a study that was done in Iowa. My home community was actually part of the study, and it showed what it cost to have a vacant or underutilized space within a district. And just that lower level alone, the ground floor of a building in a downtown district, it's a $220,000 loss to that community for one single vacancy. When you couple that and you think historically, the building owner, the property owner, the business owner lived upstairs, so that was residential upstairs, and that with that's vacant, that's another loss to the community. So if you take that underutilization and you take the vacancies and think about how much lost opportunity, it's a lot of dollars that your community is missing capitalizing on. So really, as Jim said, each community is unique. Fairfield has a great bones here, a lot of good things, and we really would like to see some more things happening with that. So I'm going to throw it out. I'd like to have things a little bit more conversational. What are some things that appeal to you in this picture?
Sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, walkable sidewalks.
Yeah, walkable colors. Yeah.
Family friendly.
Family friendly. Yep. You got kids, parents walking down the sidewalk. What else?
Trees.
Mm-hmm.
Signage.
Yeah. Good signage.
It's not nighttime, but I can see that there's some lights there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Got some hanging baskets. Outdoor seating, absolutely. You've got this business professional person maybe walking here, bike racks, just that real whole package.
Carol, I noticed the two-way streets. Sorry.
Two-way street.
The two-way streets, absolutely. But really, that's what we're striving for. Everybody kind of knows, that feeling when you get into a downtown that you want to be in and you want to hang out. That's what we want to see happening here. Not that you don't have it, but we sure would like to see more of that as well. When you think about downtown overall, it really shows the health of your community. It's like the living room of your house. You want to bring people here when they come to the community. It's a place that you want to hang out, you want to share, or is it a place that you want to avoid? Some downtowns you want to avoid. We don't want to see that here. This is a quote from Debbie Durham. We were talking about the Director Durham earlier today before everybody got here. She is a real champion of downtown development. but also place-based economic development. And place-based economic development revolves around that, just what it said, it's the spaces, it's the atmosphere, and how that contributes to the overall economic influence and health of communities. And you think about the bigger communities, you think about people that want to move in from Washington, D.C. or different places. They want to come to a place where they want to live. That's what we're trying to create. So there's really 4 buckets that we work in. They're called the social values, or the forces of value is kind of how we refer to it within the Mainstreet world. And the first one is civic. That's that public-private partnership. It's bringing people together to make things happen. It's tourism with economic development groups and people working together. The other is physical, that look and feel of downtown. The economic is the small business support. That's you all right here. It's all of you working to create businesses within your community, and figuring out how you're going to make that happen and be successful, and leaning on each other and learning from each other. And then that social side is just events, activities. It is bringing people to the downtown and making it a center for activity for your community, kind of like it was back in the day when we were less car centric. So within Iowa, sorry, I went too fast on that. Go back one here. As Jim said, we are part of the Economic Development Authority, and the Downtown Resource Center is our overarching body. Within that, and Mainstreet, Iowa is a premier program of, I like to say we're the premier program, the Downtown Resource Center.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You are.
So
We are.
there we go.
Yeah.
But that's where we're housed. So I am going to read this. I usually don't, but there are some keywords that I want to focus in on and I want you to think about. So basically, Mainstreet, Iowa is to improve the socio and economic well-being of Iowa's communities by assisting select communities. So we talked earlier about that application process. You have to, people just can't say, hey, I want to be a Mainstreet community. You have to prove that you're willing to work, that it is a grassroots effort and it's what your community wants, and people are willing to roll up their sleeves and get things done. So again, select communities to capital on the unique identity. You guys have great bones here. Love it. And then that in that historic context, love to hear that you have some historic preservation expertise right here in the room that you can lean on and learn more. So basically, economic development in the context of historic preservation. That's what we're looking for. We want to save the bones of your community in those buildings. But we are also part of a bigger network. Jim talked about the framework of the Mainstreet world. Mainstreet America is actually started as part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation years ago. They've kind of gone out on their own as a subsidiary, and they provide guidance for us. We are the coordinating program. We have a contract with Mainstreet America to be able to bring this service to the state of Iowa through the Economic Authority. When Mainstreet comes to a community, it's actually a contractual agreement between the state and between the local program and between Mainstreet America. So, and with your local city. So it is something that we take very seriously, because we are putting resources within your community because you have shown us that you're willing to make that happen. Any questions before I go a little bit further?
Is Mainstreet America private or what?
It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Okay, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about the approach and kind of how it relates to those buckets that we were talking about earlier. Jim talked about this a little bit with that market understanding, the survey work, finding out what businesses might succeed, and that type of thing. So that's part of what we do, is we help identify what your community makeup is and where you want to go with that vision is. But those 4 buckets relate specifically to what we call the 4 points of the economic of the Mainstreet approach, and we're going to talk specifically about those in a very high level way. The first being that economic vitality. That's the business group. It is supporting businesses. It is creating opportunities for businesses to learn from each other. It's understanding the current makeup, what's here, what's missing, and really bringing that strength of that small, independent, locally owned businesses working together. The next point is that promotion point. That's social events. That's the activities. It's all the things that tourism is talking about in bringing people to the community and hear great things from our tourism group on what all you're doing here in Fairfield. So thanks for that. That's great. But again, it's bringing people to the district and telling people what's happening. So that's one of those values of things that we're trying to work on. But really primarily, retail type events. We want people to come downtown. We want them to come downtown and spend money. Also want them to just have those big festivals that the community is known for and helps elevate the image and the reputation of the community overall. The next piece of design, we touched on that, I think, quite a bit. With Jim talked about the streetscapes and signs and those types of things, but really it's the look and feel of the downtown. We're thinking about that historic preservation piece. It is helping businesses, building owners know how to take care of their buildings. What improvements can be done? What's the best use of space? What type of business makes sense in a built environment? Those are all things to really consider when you're thinking about the highest and best use and getting a building, as Jim said, rent ready. You want a place for you all to go when you're ready to branch out and have a storefront downtown. Last is that organization piece. That is the partnerships. It is the city and the public working together to support and to focus on downtown as a key component of the economy of your community. It's the volunteers. Mainstreet is a volunteer-based organization. We rely on people within the community to roll up their sleeves and get things done. It's also typically it's a nonprofit organization within the community. So, funding, it's providing that security and stability for the organization, not only to work to exist, but to work to be able to make things happen in the community. And then again, running the program and talking about it and sharing accomplishments and goals and things out in the community. So those are those 4 points or those 4 buckets that we talked about. And how they relate to the values that we have within a community. It's very strategic. It isn't just let's pick a project and do it. It's let's pick a project. Why are we doing this project and what are we going to get? Is it a measurable outcome? Is it something that we want to have? Do we want to have 5 new facades completed within this year, updated within the year? Do we want to create a grant program and for signage and have 6 businesses take advantage of that grant program? So it's measurable. It's able to prove that you have taken this seriously and you have demonstrated those results. So again, it is strategic in nature. The next thing that Mainstreet is all about is really that overall, how does this all come together? And we call those the guiding principles. The first one is that comprehensive approach. It is the strategies across all 4 of those areas. It's those things working together. We've talked about that a lot. The next is incremental. And Jim talked about this earlier as well. It's those small projects that add up to bigger impact. It's 1 block at a time, 1 building at a time. It's maybe one year you add flower pots and the next year you add hanging baskets. It's those types of small activities that really show change over time. One of the pictures that I saw over when we were in the chamber office was a picture and it had a streetscape from 1970. And then there was a picture of 1990. Can't remember what the date was, but it was that the same viewpoint that the picture was taken. It just shows that incremental change over time. The next one is self-directed. We can come in here, we can give a report, we can share with you ideas of what we think would work in your community, but then we go back to Des Moines and we go back to our homes, and it's up to you all to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to adopt, and make things happen on your own. That public-private partnership, we've talked about that. That's the grant programs and the incentives. It is the partnerships between the entities, that contract that I talked about earlier, that create that community that you're looking for. Existing assets, again, that taps into the historic built environment that we talked about too. It is looking at what you have here. It's how are you going to talk about those things? And what are we going to share? It's the museum that's in the old Carnegie building, and sharing that information. It's an asset. It's something that you want to tell that story and bring people here to come and to see. Quality. In the Mainstreet world, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it well. We're not going to do things halfway. This one I think is a big point that it doesn't matter if it's Main Street or any initiative that happens in a community. There are always a select group of people that are going to be, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to make it work. Absolutely, I'm on board. You're going to have that other group of people that are going to say no to everything. They are going to find a reason not to do something. They do not start with yes, they start with no. And then you've got the people in the middle, that 60% who can think, I can go either way on that, convince me. And that's part of what Mainstreet does too. It rallies the community and it makes them understand and helps educate the public on why this is important, why downtown is important to your community. And then implementation focused. We talk about this in every community that we go in. Every community has studies. Every community brings consultants in, almost everybody. But what do you do with the information once you get it? You need to implement it. And that's what we hope that you do. So Mainstreet, Iowa, what do we do? People think, oh gosh, they're going to come in with a bucket of money. We don't come in with a bucket of money. We might come in with a little bit of money, but our services is really that technical assistance partner. That's the strength of the Mainstreet program. We have expertise in all four of those buckets that we talked about, all four of those points, and we share that knowledge with the community. We also provide training. We have 3 trainings per year that Mainstreet programs come to on the different areas of expertise to help develop the professional people that are working within downtown economic development within the community. So those are kind of the two that's kind of our big one, but that accountability partner too. We don't just come in and then come back a year later. But we're checking in. We're having those frequent visits. We're a phone call away. We're an extension of the local staff, our team is. So it's that accountability factor that helps kind of bring things together. So whether we are in doing a design visit, a small business consultant visit, or helping develop that strong organization, Mainstreet is a partner with the local community. There's 53 other Mainstreet communities across the state right now. We are in an application round accepting communities' applications to potentially become a Mainstreet community, but this network relies on each other as well. As I said, we get together about 3 times a year, and directors get to know each other. Each Mainstreet program has a paid staff person, and not only do they rely on us, but they rely on each other for help and advice. So the application timeline, this is what your community is going through right now. So we have the application round is this year in 2025 is only for communities who previously had applied for Mainstreet. We're adjusting the timing on our application process. I won't go into all of the reasons why, but so that has limited the pool of eligible people even to apply. The application is due May 15th, and I know that your community has some people actively working on that. Throughout June, we have an advisory council of professionals from across the state that will be reviewing the applications and determining, are they ready or not to become a Mainstreet? Are you ready to join that family of 53 other communities doing the 4-point approach to economic development within your community? We will take those recommendations to the agency leadership, and then at the Downtown Conference, which is actually going to be in Muscatine, which isn't too terribly far away when you consider maybe we could be over in Council Bluffs or something. So hopefully we'll see many of you at the conference in August, but then we'll have a formal announcement. But what happens is that's when the work really begins. So the application process is a lengthy process. We really want to make sure that you're ready to go and can hit the ground running. But that's what we do. We hit the ground running and we get some things done in your community. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions.
Start. One of the things when we have entrepreneurs speak to us about their story and journey, most often they'll tell us about their biggest failure and what they learned from that failure. I'm certain that it's not all candy corn and unicorns and rainbows for you. As you've implemented these programs across the state, what was a particular failure? What you learned from it, and now it benefits communities like Fairfield?
I think the biggest failure is lack of communication to keep the community informed. Because as soon as the community doesn't know what's happening, volunteerism wanes, and then you have a staff person and maybe 2 or 3 members of the board trying to do the entire scope of work, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And programs, there's a cycle. Nonprofit organizations, things are up and down and up and down. But when you get to that lack of interest and lack of knowledge of what's happening, that impacts fundraising. It's just a whole plethora of things that can cause that downfall.
One thing too, Carol said this is where the work begins after you're selected. I've had the pleasure of working in both Wisconsin and Iowa on Mainstreet application processes. And we talked about this in the car. Sometimes a community will apply, file an amazing application because they spent hours and hours building support. And when they were selected, there was a letdown. And I don't know why that happens. I think it's kind of a tiring process. You're hiring a Mainstreet director, you turn it over to him or her and expect them to walk on water, and they don't. So I think it is when the work begins, after you gain status, you really have to go to work there.
I have a question allied to that. We have a group of people here that meet every week. We have done it for more than a year, and we never run out of speakers. And so this is a great platform that we can get this out. My question specifically is, thank you, Joe, what can each one of us do? Let's say someone is inspired to do something to help this project. What's the most practical thing any one of us can do? Who should we talk to? How can people get personally involved in this?
That's a great question. So Mendy Adams, thank you, is kind of spearheading the local committee that's working on this project. Reach out to Mendy, see if you can get involved with the application process. Understand what's trying to what activities they're working on to make things happen. But when those 4 points that we talked about, those are eventually going to turn into committees. It's going to be a group of people. And where I see this group really fitting in would be that economic vitality group. So you need to work with that Mainstreet program to create the programs similar to you've got this great thing going on, but how can Mainstreet support what you're trying to do? What are some challenges that you might be having that that collectively Mainstreet can help overcome some of those? So that would be one area, would be just to become involved in the organization. And then of course, always as a nonprofit group, they're going to have a paid director and some, financial support is always.
Well, that was my follow-on question.
Treasure.
Yeah.
Here, Minnie dropped this off the other day. Here are some pledge forms. And so if you have interest in either financially contributing, because there is a dollar amount that we have to meet in order to be a successful applicant. She's getting close. I don't know where we're at, but I hear we're close. So any contribution that you can give will help push us into success possibly. And then also there is volunteer support. She's got, if you've got special skill sets that you feel could benefit this program, Mindy wants to know about it. So here are some pledge forms. You can pledge your time or your money.
Right.
And it's pledges, you don't have to pay today.
Do you have enough of them to start passing around? Okay.
I think so. I'll give those out.
Yeah.
On top of that, Mindy has set up a Main Street Facebook page as well. And it has the forms on it, it has the documents on it.
It's just Main Street Fairfield, and it does have the links to all the road pits and notches, all the pieces on there, so you can, look at it. Also, the chamber could be possibly like posting success stories from other communities.
You're welcome. Thank
Kind
you
of
for
get a
making
sense of what this could be.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned success stories from other communities, because one of the things that we do encourage communities to do is go out and meet with other Mainstreet programs, set up an appointment as a group, get a group of people here from Fairfield to go and visit and find out what worked in your community, what didn't work. You've got some great Mainstreet programs, not too far away from where you are now. So talk to those people, find out what worked for them.
Well, there's one other allied question, the money part. Let's talk about the money part. What is our responsibility as a community for raising money? What's the scope of the money? How much do we need to raise? People probably need to understand that.
We don't have a set dollar amount.
Okay.
It is a dollar amount that will allow the program to be effective in your community.
Okay.
Now, we do require a focused staff person to work on downtown, to be the director or the point person for Main Street. So in communities under 5,000, which is not you, but that's a part-time, in communities of your size, we require a full-time person. So you need to have, that's part of the funding is to create a sustainable wage for that person. So you don't churn through director after director after director, because that's another issue and another challenge. Communities that have a new director every year don't get the traction, pun intended, to get things going within their community, because it's always a learning process.
Is that a 3-year commitment or a 4-year commitment?
We do require a 3-year pledge commitment, so we know what your budget's going to be for the first 3 years. Kind of as I said earlier too, we don't want you spending all your time just trying to raise money. We want you to do that up front, so you know you got some sustainable income over those first 3 years, so you can actually be getting work done.
Yeah, and I think a weakness of Fairfield's first application was it was budget heavy in the first year, and the second and third years were questionable.
And there was a small number of pledges as well.
And Carol, are the pledges going to a 501c3 organization? Is there, I mean, most of the charitable giving
Is
is.
that true?
That's a local.
It's a final fee.
Yeah, C3.
Fairfield is working on the LLC, I don't know if they've done it yet, but if you filter, if you're donating money now, if you filter through the LLC, non-for-profit, or the Chamber of Commerce.
I think most-
Bucket basically to go into.
Carol,
Right now, they just-
most of our organizations are C3s, right?
Most are C3s. There are some C6s, which are membership based. C3 is really where you want to be,
Mhm.
because that's where that donation is tax deductible for you.
So you had applications from Fairfield, you're gonna have another one, so you know it pretty well.
We've had one.
What type of money are we really talking about?
Carol, what's an average? Do you remember on a salary survey, what's an average budget for
Average
Main Street?
Budget for a Main Street, anywhere from, I'd say average would be about $250.
And
Per
what
year?
part would come
Per
from
year.
Fairfield? Would come from these financial supports?
All of it.
It's all
It's all.
your local.
It's all on us.
250,000 total for the 3 years.
No,
Per year.
Per year.
Per-
That's an average budget. Now,
I saw on Facebook the goal that Fairfield had, and I can't remember what it was. Do you guys know?
Well, it's 75,000, the Main Street's gonna be housed in the chamber building and at no cost, so that's part of the budget they don't have to worry
So
about.
you can count in-kind support like
Right.
that in your application.
absolutely.
So the fundraising goal is $225,000, and we're about not quite 2/3 of the way there.
Over 3 years or?
Yeah, because you have to show that you're fully funded for the first 3 years.
So that would be the appeal to the public. It wouldn't be accounting city funds, that kind of thing.
And I will say there's typically a variety of donors that contribute to a Main Street program. And one of the most underlooked and groups is just the citizens within the community, because everyone wants to have that community that they want to live in and they want to spend time in. And we oftentimes focus so much on the business and property owners that we lose sight of the benefit for the entire community. The hospital that is trying to hire a doctor to come and move into your community values a downtown that is thriving.
yes.
So it's important to your industry as well as the businesses and property owners that are right here.
That's my question, is about local property owners not really sure what this is gonna do, how it's gonna impact them, are they gonna be, compelled to spend money on their buildings? What's kind of the best thing to say about why they should support Main Street?
Well, for one thing, as Jim said, there's guidelines that, we want to help property owners increase the assessed value of their buildings if they want to. If they don't want to do something, they don't have to. We're not going to tell you, you have to do X, Y, and Z. Again, it's local decisions. We will provide advice. We will provide technical assistance. but it is your decision on what type of community you want to live in.
Unless there are bricks falling on people's heads, then we need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we like,
Yeah.
You get one or two buildings that are the catalyst, the people that really truly believe in what this is about and what it can do.
Yeah.
And people see that progress, they see that building being transformed, and then they are motivated then, oh, you know what, I can take this off my windows, I can restore this piece, I can do those pieces. So sometimes it takes one or two buildings that actually get the ball really rolling for the rest of them to kind of fall in line. But
absolutely.
you're right, you can't force somebody to do it, but honestly, if you go down the street and you know, all these buildings are nice, maybe I'm motivated to upgrade mine.
Carolyn,
That's that incremental.
Yeah.
We talked about with the guiding principles, it's incremental. It is not a fix that's gonna happen in a year or two. This is a long haul process.
and I, don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling that Fairfield's goal for their first year budget is less than the average that we talked about, which is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it true, I think I understand from the downtown assessment, we could, building owners, property owners, the city, depending on which grant program, could apply for some of the revitalization grants, like the Catalyst or the downtown revitalization, like we've done for our facades. But there might be Main Street specific type of grants that would only be open to Main Street communities. And then do we also, if we become a Main Street community, do we become, maybe get some extra points towards some of those other types of grants? Is there an incentive for grants?
So Main Street programs, Main Street Iowa offers two grant programs technically through Main Street Iowa. One is a challenge grant, and yes, it is for buildings that are within the boundaries of the downtown district. And the other is an Open for Business grant. That is a business-specific grant to help an existing business grow or, expand in some way, grow and expand, same thing.
Are those one-to-one like the others?
Typically, one-to-one match. Mhm.
I think the challenge grant is we don't like to be in the program for more than 40%.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's a Catalyst grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Challenge
Main
grant,
Street-
Main
Challenge
Street is
grant
50/50. You score better if you're 60/40.
And I understand you're also, I'm not going to try to explain this because I work at IEDA and I don't totally understand it yet. But you're also applying for the Thriving Communities
Yes.
designation, which does give you extra points for certain grant programs at IEDA.
Wonderful.
I was helpful, and I worked on the cultural and entertainment district designation so many years ago. So we had a whole map of what was included in that. Is that kind of map superimposed again? I mean, is that considered what is?
The proposed district for the Main Street is primarily the downtown, and then it extends over to Howard Park, and then it pushes in different directions, so it's not as extensive as the cultural district. It overlaps in several places, but it is not linear to one or the other.
Okay.
Because what you're trying to do is encompass the primarily commercial historic buildings within that district, whereas the cultural district includes the residential and the commercial buildings, to give that overall perspective.
Is the proposed Main Street district, this application cycle, the same as last?
I think it's fairly close. I think there's a couple slight changes, but I understood it right. I wasn't part of the first one, but I'm probably on this one, so.
I don't think it that haunted you. That wasn't an issue last time, so.
We've got time for one more question. One more question.
Well, if you have any, here's our contact information. Reach out anytime. Thank you for your
Let's
time.
give Jim